Hello, watercolor artists. I'm Lisa Christensen. I have started this watercolor journey about probably 11 years ago, and I absolutely love watercolor. I am a mother of actually 3 kids, and that is just me in my backyard. And I am in the thick of raising my family, and I just love being a mom and everything that goes with it. This is my daughter and my sons. We love band and natural history, and then you'll see our family at a hockey game. And then of course I have a Dachshund Lab mix who is my companion. I love to garden and to grow things, and that is where I draw most of my inspiration for my cards. And so you'll see me plein air paint, you'll see me out in the garden. This is a field of bluebells that I did at our state park. There's my painting setup. I love being outside painting. And of course I nature journal as well so I can remember what I've grown. And so, alright, so as I walk you through some of the materials and the supplies that you will want for watercolor card making, keep in mind that this is my style and my way of doing things. There are many different ways of doing the same thing, but this is what I have found after 10 years of making watercolor cards be a thing, has helped me. So I'm sharing all my tips and all my supplies that I use on a daily basis when I make my cards. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe. I appreciate it. Go through some of the basic supplies that I use for card making and just kind of go through my whole process. So when I started with card making, I really started with just a round brush. This is a round 8 brush. Nothing really special or wonderful about it. It is a Princeton Select Artist brush. It's been used, well loved. But I started with a round brush, and then that's an 8. This is a 10. You don't need a 9. So I like to go with evens. It's just easier that way for me. So and then I got an oval brush that I love. I love using oval brushes. It's kind of like a good mix between a round and a flat, but they're really handy to have, and I use that for florals a lot. And then I do have a flat brush. This is a this is an inch flat brush, and I will get a lot of washes. I do a lot of washes, and it's perfect for cards, for the card size. I have a wonderful, one of my favorite brushes is made by Silver, and Silver brushes, and this is an angled brush, and I love the tip on it. It's pretty stiff, which is really nice to get into detail, and I can just do a lot of fun florals with the angled brush as well. And then for details, I have my script liner brush. This is a Rigger Zero brush. It's a Rigger brush. I love it. And then I have a fan brush, and that's really all the brushes that you need to get started. You don't even need all of them. You could just go with, if you want to just start with 2 round brushes. An 8 and a 10 would be great, and maybe a 2 or a 4. I wouldn't go any young. I would probably get a 4. An 8, a 10, and a 4 round brush would be perfect to start with. And then if you're able to get an oval brush, this is a size 10 oval brush. I really enjoy having it, and a flat brush, a 1-inch flat brush, and then you're good. Brush care. There is some brush care for brushes. Don't have them stand up like this. Have them always resting on a washcloth, especially when you're done, because the water will drip down. You don't want the water to drip this way because there's glue inside the barrel, and water will get and destroy the glue. So I always leave my brushes flat on the surface with a washcloth, so it will take the moisture out of the brushes. And I've had these brushes for years and years and years. I will sometimes have to replace my number 8 because I use it so often, but I don't know, about every year or so I just buy a new size 8 and a size 10 brush, but not every year. So it just depends on when I need them, but if you keep good care of them, you should not need to. I've had this one for 3 years and it still looks brand new. So, and I've had this one for probably 5 years, and it looks a little worn, but it still works for what I need it to do. So I always say keep them on a flat surface where the water can absorb. Alright, watercolor paper is so important. Don't get anything under 140 pound. you definitely want 140-pound watercolor paper. And the reason why is I have some cut down to like an A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it's thick. It's really, really thick, and I can paint like multiple layers on it and it will still look really good. If you get mixed media paper, it will buckle, and it's great for sketching and great for washes, but it's not great for actual watercolor. So I recommend Strathmore. My favorite is Canson. I love Canson watercolor. Strathmore and Canson both are really good brands. I don't have a problem with either of them ever, but I always make sure it's 140-pound. I do like the 9x12 because I can do 5x7s, 2 5x7s on one sheet, or I have extra room to cut and play and crop my illustration for my card base. And so I like watercolor paper. I will often cut. Here's a whole bunch that I just cut not too long ago, and it's just cold press 140-pound watercolor paper, and I get it from Canson, and I cut them down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Alright, let's talk watercolor. I love my watercolor pigments. There's two types of watercolor, and before I get into it, I'm going to show you the two types. So these are both brands that I have used and enjoy. This one is tube watercolor from Paul Rubens. Paul Rubens is a Japanese watercolor, and I love Japanese watercolor because it has some staining abilities, but it also is opaque a little bit. So if you are used to working with acrylic, the opaqueness is kind of nice. So there's tube watercolor, beautiful set. This is one of my favorite sets. And then also I have the Artistro watercolor paint set, and these are in pans, so they are not tubed watercolor, they are pan watercolor. And so usually it comes with a palette, a color swatching. This is the palette, and then I color swatched all the colors, so that's really nice. And Artistro does a really good job with their colors. You can tell that this is really well loved. But this is what the pans would look like, and so they are in pans. And don't throw these pans away, because once you use up all the color, you can refill the pan with tube watercolor. And I have a whole video on why you would choose pan over tube and vice versa, but realistically it comes down to your preference. If you have a brand preference and you have a very certain style of color that you like to use, like a palette, like maybe you only like brights or maybe you only like mutes, then tube watercolor might be nice. Then you don't need to have all of these colors, right? It also comes down to other reasons, like this is a Schmincke watercolor palette that I made. Schmincke watercolors come in tubes, and then I just made my watercolor palette with the pans that you can buy, just the palette, and then you buy the pans separately and you add your watercolor into the pan, and then you can use it like this. So I do feel like tubes have a little bit more versatility than pans. Like I can't, until this paint's done, I can't do anything, right? I just have to use it, but that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I do like the versatility where I can say, you know what, I just want a couple reds, a couple blues, a couple greens, a couple yellows, and I'm making my split primary palette and be on my way. Another reason why you might choose to make your own palette from tubes would be like this. This is my, really this is technically my animal and natural palette. So anything I'm going to paint like outside or in nature, this is my color palette. And I'm never steered wrong. I can know exactly what color I need. I have 3 blues, a green, 2 yellows, an orange, 3 reds, and a pink, so 5 reds, and then purple. And then I also have some iridescent colors because why not? So anyways, like when you make your own palette from tubes, you can really have a lot of creativity. But you can choose between tube paint or pan sets. Sometimes they're also called cakes or pans. That's what they're talking about here. whereas 2 watercolor is fresh watercolor and it hasn't been dried, and you can get it to dry. So that is that. And then of course pencil, eraser, all the other things that you might need for drawing. Alright, so let's say you decide to go with a spiral bound watercolor 140 pound cold press watercolor palette, and you just want to start painting. Awesome, let's make it happen. So this is a painting that I did 2. I did one of just one pot, one hanging basket that I made for myself for my porch on during Mother's Day weekend. And then here's another one where I've actually made 2 of these hanging baskets, and then one was gifted to me as a friend. I really love having flowers on my porch. So I wanted to illustrate that in watercolor. So I illustrated those 3, and I personally know kind of the size limit that I'm at, which is perfect, and that's perfect. So I didn't necessarily need to, but I could have had something like this in and just traced it, but who has time for that, right? No, I'm joking. But that's something that you totally could have done, and I probably should have done, but didn't. But that's okay. I knew what I wanted to do, and now I'm ready to cut my paper. This is one of many ways that artists do this. Oftentimes I will have my paper pre-cut like you see, and I will just say, okay, I'm going to paint whatever, my hanging basket or my flowers on here, and then call it good. But for this purpose, I'm just going to show you how I crop my watercolor paper to make it into a card, and I will need my paper cutter for that. Alright, I have my paper cutter, and I tore off this watercolor sheet, and now I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and just cut it right down the middle. I don't want to... And now I can start kind of figuring out how much headspace I'm going to need. This one. And now I know I need it to be about 4 inches. Might have to, and then I can do 5 1/4, and that will give me a nice spot. And then maybe I'll put a thinking of you or Happy Mother's Day like right here. But there we go. There's a nice little card for that. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm actually going to start. Let's see, 5 1/2 is here. No, I need that to be about 4 inches. Actually, it might be just more of a skinnier card. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to keep it like that, maybe. I see. So sometimes when I'm cropping, I have to decide, like, okay, there's not as much, I call this head space, right? White space, head space. So this is going to need to be cut down just a tad bit. We'll have to cut it down to about there, about 1/4 inch off. There, that looks better. And now, again, I could just have something simple like that, like thinking of you, love you, something simple right down there, and that would look really perfect. All right. Alright, let's talk card bases. So once I cut this down to where I want it to be, I got some options. I could get some colored card bases, and that could work. I think that might be a little too pink and a little bit like hurting my eyeballs, so that's not going to work. But you can buy card bases pre-packaged, ready to go. This is pink. They make them in greens and all the colors. I personally use a lot of white card bases. Again, these are from TE, and I'm almost out of them, but they come not folded, so you have to fold them, but there's a score line. You can kind of see that score line right there, and so I'll fold it, and then I will also use a bone folder. Here's my bone folder, just so I can get a good crisp fold. And now I have that, and that would work perfectly right here. And I made just enough space that I can mount this right on at right in the middle, and it will look just fine. And then there's my card, and I'm done. I will use some glue. I use a tape runner, a 3M tape runner, and I will go all around the edges and then a couple down the middle, and then glue it on. I'll show you. I have had this thing for a really long time. That's the tape glider. It's a Scotch tape glider, but you can buy them in different, sometimes you can buy them and you just throw them away, like they're a lot smaller, but they're just a tape glider, and I really like them. Sometimes I have to finagle my tape glider because I've had it for so long, but it still works and I'm still happy to have it. Anyways, alright, and then once I got enough glue, then I just mount it. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. Alright. And I want to make sure that it is straight. That looks about good. And I will sometimes often use the bone folder. It's not going to hurt the watercolor, because the watercolor is like barely on the paper, like it's seeped into the paper. Anyways, okay. And there we go. I got a card, and now I can write something on it in the whatever. And so, how fun. But I think I will put I will probably stamp something right here, or maybe I'll leave it alone. I really want to give it to my friend who gave me the flowers because it's so pretty. And I can always paint another one. Alright, so for this one, I'm going to do they make card bases in both horizontal and vertical tint fold. So when I say tint fold, it folds in half, like a tint, right? And so this is what I would consider a horizontal card base, and this is a vertical card base. Alright, and for this, I think I'll do the same thing, but I'm going to actually cut some of this off so we don't have much. Now I could put pattern paper down here, but I really like the idea of it just being a watercolor card, so I'm going to, again, tape glue that with a tape runner, and I'll be right back. Alright, you're just gonna see my process of mounting. I'm just making sure. Now if I was smart about it, I would have it on my grid, and I would make sure that it's just so perfect. That looks good. Again, you can call it vernishing it down, but really I just want to make it so it works. And I don't know about you, but I'm just loving this little illustration. It's going to be so fun to give as a card. And now you're going to be able to see me kind of cut, so I don't need all that extra white space, and I'd rather not have it. So I'm just cutting so it looks like there's just a border of the white card, and I think that's really pretty. It doesn't have to, as long as it fits in the envelope that you created it for, then it's good. Alright, so there's my two cards. I spent, I don't know, an hour illustrating these, and now I can put them on the card. Alright, so now that's the complete part of the card. Now all I have to do is two things. I like to sign my name, so I'm just going to do L. Christensen. And then sometimes I like to say, I actually have a stamp that says handmade by Lisa, but I'll just write it. Handmade by Lisa. I'll probably give it to a friend. She doesn't need the stamp either, but L. Christensen. And I always like to do pencil, because that is how watercolorists sign their name, is with pencil. Handmade by Lisa. And then sometimes I like to put a smiley face. I'll do that. But there we go. I got two perfect cards. And that is how you assemble your cards. And one way of many ways to paint and then make a card. But I do like using watercolor paper. And for these cards, I used my plein air palette. It was Core Watercolor, and I just had fun illustrating. So anyways, if you found this video to be helpful, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I make videos and produce videos every Thursdays when they come out, and I try really hard to make them relevant to the watercolor card community on Facebook. So thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!